Emily Treadgold of the New Nine is here on the Buy My Merch podcast. Emily, you've been a requested guest. Hey everyone, Marilyn here. I just wanted to let you know that we had a bit of an audio issue with this episode, so you're going to be listening to a cleaned up version of our room mic instead of the two directional mics that you see us talking into. But it was such a great conversation that I still wanted to share it, so I hope you enjoy. Perfect. So I think my first requested guest. I'm really excited to have you on today. We've already met.
Yeah.
We actually met at one of my good friend Petra Gerard's shows.
Great show.
At the Hotel Cafe. Love her. And I was like, we got to do something together. And then a year passed.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, next time I'm in LA, making it happen. And lucky for everyone else, they just get to listen to us gab for like an hour, basically.
My favorite thing to do.
About all of our endeavors in the world. So we first became mutuals on TikTok. So Emily runs the New Nine. The New Nine is a really cool, I'd say like music journalism, but also music culture conversation TikTok account.
Yes.
Saw a few of your viral videos. I really enjoyed your takes. And then we were like, oh, we're both talking about the industry, but you come from this really interesting perspective that's very like the fan first mindset of the music industry and the impact of fans. So I wanted to ask you, what inspired the beginning of the New Nine?
So actually, I started the New Nine. I think I was about 25. To make myself feel old, we've had it for about like 8 years now. And I was a freelancer doing music journalism, writing for other sites. A lot of them are non-existent now, which is the way things work. But
Blogs had a huge moment like 10 years ago. That was all it was.
It was everything. I was huge in the music blogging scene, and I wanted to create my own space because at that time, I felt like a lot of young women's opinions on music weren't being taken seriously. And now we have everyone saying fangirl music industry pipeline. I would like to say we were the first.
I didn't hear that term anywhere else before our page.
And I feel like I really wanted to get a lot more women writing about their favorite artists and more women talking about up and coming artists that they loved, which now like we see really shapes the culture of music. Like we were really early on like Billie Eilish. I think we were one of Kim Petras' first interviews. And like, honestly, I'm totally claiming Chappell Roan as mine because I've been preaching Chappell Roan for ages.
We are filming this at the height of her. She just did Lollapalooza. This is, and did you chat with her as an interview?
Many times, yes. So I've interviewed Chappell 3 times, actually.
Wow.
And yeah, so I feel like we've been really ahead of the curve on a lot of things. And I think that is coming from listening to young women.
And the New Nine features exclusively female musicians, correct?
So not all the time.
Not all the
I like to call it like a nice 80-20.
I feel that.
It's like the opposite of the country music, tomatoes in the salad reference, where the women are the tomatoes and the men are the lettuce. The men are our tomatoes, I think.
Okay.
Because I don't want to exclude men, especially if one of my writers is really passionate about an artist. I think that she should be able to interview them and talk to them. So we do feature some men, not as much now. And I try to not put them on our playlist unless it's like Troye Sivan. But like...
And the New Nine has multiple writers too.
Yes, we do. Samantha Fong is like my right-hand gal. She kind of started this with me. And then we have like writers kind of come and go. And it's mostly to give people kind of like a leg up and be able to have like portfolio work and things like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, when I started seeing your work on TikTok, I really dove in, and this was before I created the bones of Heads on TV.
Yeah.
So I was posting with the name and having fun, but I said, oh, Emily's got this whole, like, it's a blog. There's so much cool stuff going on. And you started hiring people and making it more of like a true business. And I think I just wanted to always tell you on camera that like was a big inspiration for me as I got started to be like, this is Heads on TV is like a business. Like this is something it needs a name. Like it's going to be, we want to grow it in that way. And I always thought the New Nine was already moving in that direction.
Oh, I appreciate that so much.
Before we get into all these amazing hot takes, and stick around, we have so many good questions for you. I wanted to just ask, did you ever have ambitions to be a musician? Was that ever on your lineup?
Never in my life.
Never in your life.
My dad has always said I've always been a critic first. I would go see plays and like be really critical of them when I was a kid. And, he just was like, "Emily, you're so young to be so critical." I've never really played an instrument well in my life. I've always been a great music listener. I managed bands in college. I managed my boyfriend's band in college.
Okay.
And they broke up, so sucks for them. But like, but that's when I started writing about music and stuff. I've always just been more of a writer, a listener, a critic. I've never had my own music ambitions, which I think is good because you know what? If you talk to a lot of musicians and you ask them, like, oh my gosh, have you heard so and so? Have you heard this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, actually, that's good. You should not be like listening to as much music as I do. You should shape your own music the way you want to.
Yeah, that's wild because like the whole too many cooks in the kitchen
Yeah.
and like just learning too much of the recipe for all of my food, like my food metaphor brain there. But I do think that there's something to be said, having been now on both sides. I sort of started with ambitions of being an artist
Really?
and performing, and I still do love to perform, but it's like I throw a lot of my ambitions now into Heads on TV,
Hmm.
and it was partially because it was so daunting to be exposed to so much music that I wanted to write about or talk about, and
Hmm.
also try to put my own spin on my own thing. So I think it's actually I think you're right when you're like, listen, maybe listening to this
Yeah.
much music or taking a critical edge as a musician is going to be kind of a
You get in your head.
rough entry point.
Yeah, yeah, like, I
Uh,
feel like that's my job is to be critical about it, and artist's job is to not think about it.
I hear that. Speaking of the critical side of things, I wanted to ask, having released so many, I would argue as well, breaking so many really cool artists,
Yeah,
the new nine, being some of their first interviews, what would you personally say is the value of an independent artist being featured in an interview, publication, or blog?
I'm gonna be really honest with you, I don't think it helps that much. I think it's really good for them to have something I don't want all my publicists to kill me. The landscape's very different now. That's what I'll say. I think the landscape used to be a little bit better. I feel like right now you could be on the cover of Rolling Stone and won't really move the needle on like Spotify streams. But I do think it's helpful for them to get eyes on. I was talking to a girl yesterday and she's like, "No, people do pay attention to who you're talking about and who, and I've tried to be more selective than ever. I feel like I used to try to churn out a lot more content,
Yeah.
and now I'm trying to just really focus on highlighting people that I really, really love. And because I think people aren't really going to read an in-depth interview with a smaller artist right now, which is really annoying because when you do think, oh, well, I interviewed Chapel in, really early, no one was going to read it. People would read it now, but people don't. I'm sorry, is this really negative?
No, it's not. It's value.
I just think I wish people paid more attention to smaller artists. I keep screaming at people to pay attention to smaller artists, but I feel like people aren't going to read an interview with someone that they don't know. I feel like people are less likely to give smaller artists a chance. So I do try to give them that platform, even if it's a small platform.
And do you find that a lot of these artists, when they say something to you like, this is kind of my first interview,
Yeah.
could you also say it's a valuable tool to learn what it's like to talk about
Yeah.
your own project to someone else?
Yes, definitely. I think it definitely helps with like that media training. And not only that, but just being able to talk to people is such a huge important of being a smaller artist. Like I always say, like maybe you make like 5 fans and you want to talk to them about your upcoming album. Maybe that my interview will help you do that. Maybe, it does give them a little bit of training. And not only that, but like if I can just tell someone that I love their music very like honestly and truly, and I try to go to their shows and I'm like,
Mm.
if you see me like smiling in the audience, I feel like it helps, especially on those smaller stages. So,
It does. And I mean, I've seen you when my friend was here, Petra, and she
yeah,
played the Hotel Cafe. I mean, it definitely meant a lot to her. Like you're somebody there saying, hey, I want to hear what you have to say. I think that you're awesome. Being an actual person in the crowd
yeah,
can impact as well, and I think you do such a great job of being part of the scenes you're talking about,
yeah.
which is really, really cool and increasingly rare.
It is.
I've always heard whenever I talk to musicians in LA, they always make the joke of trying to get industry people out to their shows on a Tuesday or
Oh,
something,
yeah.
and how it's just next to impossible. So, I just think that's such a cool thing that especially because the new 9 has writers, I should say, in different pockets of the country,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
So
we try to go and do as much as we can. I think what's crazy about LA, and like you've lived here, so it's just hard to get to a lot of places.
So long.
Like, I lived in Austin for a long time, and I was at a show every night because it was so easy.
Yeah.
And here it's like, oh gosh, an hour drive, and then I got to park. And so it's really hard to move here.
Yeah, it's a really cool testament to how
Yeah.
you like to run the new nine
Mhm.
that you do make the effort.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask also if an artist, let's say that an artist loves what they're hearing and they are fans of the new nine and they want to be featured,
Mhm.
even regardless of you guys sort of saying that you're small, I think that you have quite more of an impact than you think. But I mean, can they reach out?
Of
Is it
course.
something like that? How do you guys find these
I
artists?
mean, to be honest, I get so many emails every day, and I'm sure you do as well. I get so many emails. And I try now, my kind of method is if I find someone I love on TikTok, I'm more likely to reach out to them than an email I get from a publicist, unless it's a publicist I'm really close to and I really trust them and they're like, Emily, you're gonna love this, I promise. But like I feel like I don't get as much from my emails as I do online, scrolling and people tagging me and things like that. I'd rather feature those artists who don't have necessarily the team to be able to pitch to a lot of people.
What I love that part that there's a TikTok you found that grabbed your attention. What's usually grabbing your attention?
I don't know. It's just like the music. I wish I could remember this girl's name that I just saw, but and then I like went. I followed her. I followed her on Instagram. I put her on our playlist. Um, and I feel like that's just like a nice way to kind of help those smaller artists and make sure, especially like on TikTok, make sure their TikTok efforts are not being unrecognized because you know how hard it is for these artists on TikTok. And I always like to, even if I get an email from a publicist, I'm like, oh my God, I saw her on TikTok. She's amazing. I'd love to interview her. Things like that.
That's cool.
But mostly social media. Yeah.
And that's a DM, right?
Yeah. DM or, yeah. I mean, emails help because it helps me with my scheduling, but mostly DMs and TikTok and stuff like that.
It's just again, it's very refreshing to hear and
Yeah.
that there's some we had an artist on today that was talking about there's parts of the industry like sync where you need to be super careful
Yeah.
with your email etiquette and the idea
Yeah.
just but again, if someone like Emily is here and saying, "Listen, like I'm down if you have music to share or you're just looking for that kind of advice." I know the new 9 is about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
really cool. Um I guess I also wanted to ask you as someone who never had artist ambitions,
Yeah.
but you have really squarely placed yourself in the industry. What advice would you give somebody who wants a similar career as yourself?
Oh, as me? Ooh. I wouldn't recommend it. Major in engineering instead. Careers in STEM. I would definitely, I mean, I guess no one was taking me seriously, so I had to take myself seriously. And I think kind of having to pave your own way. I had a really wonderful business partner when I started the new nine, who really helped me. I mean, especially when you're young, like you're filled with feelings and it's hard to sometimes map those out correctly and have like a good plan. But I think definitely starting your own thing. I hear a lot about people who are like TV and TV writers or actors,
Yeah.
and they had to write their own part to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to kind of like write your own part in the music industry sometimes. Like I feel like the things we do now, like social media for artists, I would have never known that was a job in college because it wouldn't have existed.
Even social
Yeah.
media and marketing. I got
Yeah.
into this career by accident,
Yeah.
by like a default of a weird job listing that I was like, I used to manage, like, I used to make MySpace layouts. I bet I could like do someone's social. Yeah, that's so huge. It's so
Yeah.
huge.
Like the jobs that you want might not exist. I mean, music journalism hardly exists anymore. So, I mean, I would say TikTok is the hub for music journalism right now. And, you know, it's not the same anymore. And also, like, you have to have a lot of money sometimes to write for music outlets because they don't pay a lot. But, sorry. But, you know, like, I think it does come down to like paving your own way because, yeah, Instagram didn't exist when I graduated college. Like, what are you going to do?
What are your thoughts on what's going on with TikTok in Congress right now?
Oh god, it makes me so angry because this is people's jobs and you're, no one can find a job, and now you're canceling everyone's source of income. I have friends who work at TikTok. It's a company that has a lot of really great health benefits. And not only that, but you're taking away the voices of so many people. And then I heard that a lot of people called their congressman and said, "Don't ban TikTok," and they took that as, "Oh no, they're really influencing people. We have to ban TikTok." So it's like you're not listening to your constituents, and you're banning something that is being the voice of young people and is showing a lot of news that we might not see it in another social media app. And I also think that Congress people shouldn't be allowed to have stocks in Meta if they're voting it with something. Like I think it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's interesting political climate right now. What let's say though, I sat down to try to make this video and I was like, "Oh, if I chat with Emily, I want her take." I tried to make the video of like I guess comforting artists about here's what to do if TikTok goes away.
Yeah.
What would your takes be on a world without TikTok in the music industry?
I mean, play into Meta. Ugh. I'm such a Meta hater. I really, really, truly am. Reels are great. Ugh. Just my thing with social media is always don't shoot down a new social media thing. I think a lot of people did that with TikTok. Oh, this isn't going to be a thing in the next couple of years.
Remember Vine?
Oh God. Remember Clubhouse?
Oh, of course. Of course I do. That went away.
I think so.
I think it's like
I did not like Clubhouse. I did not like it because it was just like talking to no one.
It's like giving everyone a podcast, but like no topic either.
Yeah. It was like, hey, does everyone want to be on a meeting for fun?
Like a Zoom meeting with no video.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I mean, so as I say, like, don't shoot down a new social media, but don't.
But
Always
that's
try
interesting.
it.
Lots of people tried Clubhouse, though.
Yeah.
And I actually saw a lot of creatives and artists trying in there.
Yeah.
I've always said this too. They're the first to get in there and give it a shot.
Yes.
And willing to almost groundbreak what happens in the app. I mean, think about TikTok originally started as Musical.ly, synonymous with music and breaking tracks and lip syncing, and remains so to this day. And I agree with you that it really doesn't seem right. And not that they could have ever written TikTok into the Constitution, but it's more of just like it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like anything they should be touching.
People get scared about things they don't understand. And if you think TikTok's spying on you, like
Gen Z is powerful.
dude, I love Gen Z so much. I hope the best for them.
I had a Gen Z question in here. Okay, I'm gonna spin down to it. What are some I agree with you. I am so observant of what Gen Z is up to next. We're a couple of millennials, by the way, but we are big Gen Z fans. And I wanted to ask you, what are some of the disadvantages you think Gen Z has trying to break into this crazy industry we've left them?
I mean, I think it'll always be hard for a new generation to break into an industry of old men. And I think old men in music, they hate anything new and they will fight against it. And they're very used to things being done in their own way, even though it hasn't been done like that in 20 years. And they're really not used to change and newness. So I think that's always hard with a new generation to break into any industry of gatekeepers. And I think a lot of people don't understand Gen Z's like sense of humor. And I know that I think that's hard, especially like when you're trying to break into something with a lot of like gatekeepers like that.
And the new nine audience there's quite a bit of Gen Z.
Yeah, we have a good Gen Z audience. We've had a lot of Gen Z writers that are incredible. We had this girl, Alex and Allie blogs. They were really incredible. I believe Gen Z, and they were so ambitious. They were so together. And I believe Alex West is now an entertainment reporter. And a new crop of music journalists are ambitious and they're go-getters and they're smart and they're organized.
It's cool. So for an artist who's in the early stages of their career, independent or otherwise, but that's just early on, how would you advise them to start connecting with their fan base? And think about Chapel too, where I mean that girl's fan base just flew to her,
Yeah.
just exploded her into the scene.
I think this is going to sound incredibly lame, but I do think what Chapel did a good job with is building a world for her fans. And everyone talks world building, but it is important even from the beginning. And I see that a lot. And I think leaning into what your fan base likes and finding niche things to lean into. I just worked with a girl who has like a really big like fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragons kind of vibe. And she leaned into it really hard, and her fans go nuts for it. Like, they eat it up. And especially like keeping things in that kind of like mythical fantasy world, people love that. And even though like she had already had the knowledge for that fan base, I think when you're just starting out, I see a lot of young artists. I think Any Owl is a girl's name, and she has like a very cool like fairy vibe, and she does like these like beautiful aesthetic cooking videos.
And
And
is a musician?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She
Whoa.
does like really beautiful cooking videos. She's always like in a beautiful garden. All of her shows, she has this like kind of princess fairy vibe. And it's like even like a smaller artist like that building that aesthetic out, I think is really impactful because I see her videos, I know exactly who it is, you know?
It's something I deal with too in chatting with artists that like you're not you're not trying to pitch your music to musicians.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't or shouldn't, it's that you are building a universe for these people to come into if they become your fans. And I love you bring up the idea of bringing up the cooking videos and these
Oh,
other
yeah.
sort of niches that it has nothing to do with avoiding the music or just pretending it's not there.
Mm.
It's that you build it in, maybe you use it as the soundtrack, or you're just very mindful of where. I just made a video where I was talking about where are people going to be listening to
Yeah.
your song, and
I love
start
that.
playing with that in your socials. It doesn't need to be big production sets and all of a sudden you
Yeah.
want some green screen, and it's just like if you love to cook or you write a lot about certain topics that you can also do a craft with, or you
Oh,
paint
yeah.
or something, it all ties in. It's all part of your creative energy.
Yeah.
So
And people are multifaceted, so bring that into your stuff, you know? Because I always think like music shouldn't be like, if you're screaming at me to listen to your song, I'm probably not gonna listen to your song. But if you're like, have a bunch of cats in your house and then you're playing the song while I'm looking at some cats, you know what I mean? Or like you're doing like crocheting or something that I find interesting. I see a lot of people doing their makeup, which I love. And then you end up watching the video and you're also listening to the song at the same time.
it's cool. Um, and what are your thoughts on giving fan bases names? At what point does a fan base need a name? Is it a tool that can be used for any reason?
I have a fan base name that I hate.
Ooh,
And it's, do you know that band Palais Royale?
yes.
They have, it's like Court of the Royal something. I don't know. It's a really long fan name. And I'm like, nothing sounds grosser to me than that.
A long one.
It's like, and it's also like, get off your high horse. Okay. Like, I think a lot, like, if you're giving them a name, cringy, I think.
They need to come up with the name.
If the fans come up with a name, I think it's cute. But if you are saying this is their name, like, I don't know. I don't know. Get over it.
How about this? A fan base name that you actually really like and think is clever and works.
I don't know. I like, I feel like it's too, sometimes it generalizes. Like Swifties, we all know now. That one's kind of cute. I like Swifties. What are other ones? I can't even think of any.
It's been
Like
a while.
Rihanna's is the Navy, which makes no sense.
Yeah, it's been the Navy for a
That
long
makes
time.
no sense. Why is it called the Navy?
And that's very intense.
Yeah.
It's all about it's some artists lean very hard into the mobilization effect of like
Yeah.
being them this like
Oh,
really
the Bayhive, love. I love
the Bayhive.
I love the Bayhive. That's cute.
And also it's very communal.
Yeah,
It's a very
exactly.
cute communal. It makes a lot of sense. I don't, because some of these newer artists emerging, I ask you this because I don't see them leaning into it as much.
Yeah.
Like, does Charlie XCX have a
I have no idea.
famous name?
I
I don't
would-
think
like,
Chapel does yet.
yeah. I mean, I don't think they need them. Like, I'm just a fan of Charlie XCX. If Charlie XCX has a fan base name and I don't know it, I'm gonna be such a bad Charlie fan.
Do you?
It's angels.
Oh,
Angels?
Fiona's
Yeah.
corrected us off camera. It's
Mm.
Angels.
Oh my god.
Charlie's Angels.
That's cute.
Do we agree that's cute?
I think that's pretty cute, actually.
What are your thoughts on, and I'm just before the internet comes for both of us. I'm just bringing up Swifties because it's an easy, quick one. But the idea of we just brought up mobilizing your fans for certain
Oh yeah.
things. What are your thoughts on what the internet culture has now basically turned fans into
Yeah.
massive cohorts that can go after people, corporations?
Yeah.
What do we think?
Okay, I do have a bone to pick with the Swifties always because I think you are able to be a fan of someone and also criticize them. And I think if you can't handle that, number one, worshiping celebrities is stupid. Like, if we're all being honest, they're just humans. They're not omniscient beings. Like, I think everyone needs a healthy relationship as a fan, and I think what people are doing to Chapel now is crazy. I think what people have done to Taylor Swift has always been insane. Like, it's just a human being. At the end of the day, you don't need to stalk them. Like, you don't need to worship the ground they walk on. And I think, like, I even was like talking about tortured poets, and I was like, I think it's okay. And everyone went nuts. Oh, how dare everyone's always criticizing her. I'm like, it is a piece of music that is open to criticism. I didn't say she's a bad person. Like, I think people get way too worked up about that kind of thing. I think I'm a huge Lana Del Rey fan. Guess what? I am also her number one critic because Lana Del Rey has some issues. Okay. I think it is so okay to criticize people that you're fans of, especially when they're creating music that's open to criticism, you know?
Yeah. What about independent artists getting criticism early on from fans or just from external
I mean,
sources?
criticism has a bad connotation to it. I think good criticism is helpful. Like, I think there's ways to phrase things to make things more, oh, you should try this instead. The grace sandwich, like, say something nice, say something critical, say something nice. But like, I think if you're a new artist, you should listen to people that you trust's criticism, not people online's criticism of you, because people online are crazy.
Gotta build your own relationship with your fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also keeping boundaries. This is something
Yeah.
that's being talked about a lot. Keeping these boundaries doesn't make you any less of a fan or make you like there should be never a competition of who is the most fan of someone.
Yeah.
It's all about looking at because artists now have so many arenas to present their work to you.
Yeah.
They want you focused on their work and the
Yeah.
things that they're showing and presenting you. And really, all these other wild conspiracies and everything about their relationship. Women go through this obviously
Yeah.
all the time in the industry, but it has nothing to do with what that artist wanted to even show you.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it's the art itself is absolutely open to criticism, open to conversation. And I think, again, early on as an independent artist, it's okay to sort of listen and absorb it and take it, but it's always learn as early as you can in the music industry.
Yeah.
You need to find that path. And no, this is something I wanted to ask you. I have definitely posted a heads on TV video or two in the past that got backlash. You have seen the craziest corners of the internet. I've seen some
I get a
stuff,
lot of
like
backlash.
some crazy stuff. I wanted to ask you, like, how do you navigate
Hmm.
sharing criticism in this swirl of the internet?
I mean, I am always open to being wrong. I don't think I am often because I much to people's disbelief, I'm very careful about what I post. And I mean, if we want to talk about the Ronnie Radke video, I mean that man. If that man is not open to any criticism whatsoever, you know. And I
I was part of
remember,
a series. I just wanted to
yeah,
clarify that.
yeah,
So you created a series
Men I Hate
and
Music.
Men I Hate Music.
People,
You've had a few viral
yeah,
videos in that category.
and people get mad when you talk. This is my thing about Men I Hate Music. Do whatever you want, listen to whatever you want. Be knowledgeable about who you're listening to. Be knowledgeable about, oh wow, like I can listen to the Smiths and be like, yeah, Morrissey sucks though. And you can hold space for both of those things.
Yeah.
And the Ronnie Radke video, like I got, just a wave of horrible comments, people being mad at me. I don't really care. Does it hurt me sometimes? Yes. Will people find the weirdest thing about your face to criticize? Sure.
Sure.
I remember one girl, she goes, and your eyebrows are too dark for your hair color. And I was like, oh, that is so specifically me.
She did the opposite of the gray sandwich.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I dyed them too long and she knows it. But The Ronnie Radke fans, like, they emailed my company that I worked for asking for me to get fired.
Oh,
They sent me lots of death threats. I had to get my lawyer involved with that with
wow.
but and then Ronnie got banned from TikTok for being transphobic. Oh my god, so I'm the issue here. But I think with, like, online hate comments, you really have to take it on the chin and have a thick skin about it. I'm not always the best at having a thick skin about it because I get my feelings hurt really easily. But then also I brush it off the next day. Like,
I
but
felt you handled those situations well, and I think what I was most proud of and excited about, just as a fan, is you got back on and you kind of kept
I
making
double
that
down.
series. You made well, regardless of him, like at just that one guy, but like you have continued the
Yeah,
series,
it's really
which
important.
I
Yeah.
was really excited to see because I think we also forget in the world of the internet, there's a lot that swirls around between
Yeah.
cancel culture and lots of opinions. You to be able to stand strong with your
Mhm.
opinion at this point is just kind of a unicorn of a creator. There's
Yeah.
especially when we think of influencers and being tied to brands
Yeah.
and or an artist, but like this fear of like, oh, these like I don't want to make sure I don't lose this sponsorship or I can't speak on this or say what I really think
Mhm.
because of this. I just think it was really cool to see you bounce right back from that and
Yeah.
keep the new nine exactly what it is. Like you want to make sure you bring that criticism to the table and like
Well, I
nothing
actually
wrong with it.
Anthony Fantano, reached out and was
Mm.
very supportive as someone who gets a lot of, haters.
Yes.
So that was really nice. I think
Oh,
joining the group of people who have been attacked by Ronnie Radke is an honored club, and, I will continue to hate on him, but, like, I think a lot of people were, like, telling me I was gonna get sued, and that was not gonna happen. I mean, people who think you can get sued for saying something online that is your own tweets is I mean, people everyone online is their own lawyer, you know?
yeah, it's and I'm glad you lawyered up. I'm glad you kind of you pushed through it. But the truth is, you continued doing what you always intended to do, which is sharing your own opinion, which
Yeah.
you have full right and runway to do on your own platform.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, enough about that guy. I want to pivot to South by.
Okay, yeah.
You told me something that I didn't know about you, which is you lived in Austin for
Yeah.
a long time. So Emily is artists ask me all the time about South by Southwest and these showcases. I believe Fiona, you've performed at South by, right? Fiona's definitely done the circuit. So if you have anything, feel free to chime in. But I wanted to just ask you, in this day and age, and this is by the way, we're talking about South by Southwest, enormous music festival. It happens in Austin, Texas every year, and it often breaks a lot of artists really early on, playing really small bars in Austin. Do you think in 2024, or this could come out in 2025, but the right now, do we think that South by Southwest is a meaningful tool for discovery for an independent artist?
South by is what you make of it, is what I tell everyone. I discover incredible artists every year at South by. I really do, but that's because I put in a lot of time. Me and Samantha, I think we do like about 20 interviews every year at South by, and we are running around all day. And South by is it is a lot about discovery. Like it is a lot about who you hear listening for someone else. And I think for artists, it is really good if you get out there, you're playing a lot of shows, and you're being friendly and meeting a lot of people. I have a friend who's in the band Hotel Mira,
Okay.
and I saw him at South by like 5 times, and he's, like, out there networking, and I think he found, like, a lot of good people and, like, had a really good experience because he's out there, like, putting in the work. He puts in the time to, like, go and talk to everyone, and they were developing, like, quite like, I would see their shows kind of growing every time I went, you know, and I think there's some flop shows at South by when you're playing for 5 people and you're like, "What am I even doing?" And then you're doing a show where you're playing for, like, a huge crowd and you don't know who could be in that crowd who can help you. And that's
Industry
yeah,
people you're
a
talking
lot of
about.
industry people. And then not only that, but, like, even, like, someone like me that's like, "Oh god, I have to interview this person, she's so talented," you know? My new favorite artist I saw at South by is Stevie. Have you heard of her?
Yes. And
She's like a Gen Z cumbia pop girly. She is incredible, and I saw her at South by Southwest. I was so obsessed with her, and, like, I've been seeing she did a show in LA that's incredible, just, like, costumes, dancing, just amazing. And so I feel like it's the potential to discover your new favorite artist is really high there. And also for artists, the potential to really grow your fan base and meet people that you might not have been able to meet elsewhere.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I went to South by and covered it once from the just for a company I was working for, and I did artist interviews, and it was a lot.
Oh.
So I want to transition into the South by Southwest survival guide. But the first thing I'll say, as someone who really only went once, is wear good shoes,
Yeah.
lots of water, and you need to really roll with it.
Yes.
There's a lot, I think, especially whether you're an artist or there to cover it or enjoy it, you think that you can control certain sets and what's everything, nothing that you think will happen there will happen. You have to kind of roll with
Oh, yeah.
what happens. And I wanted to just ask you in that mindset about your South by Southwest survival tips.
Ooh, I mean, you know what? It helps having a friend. Me and Samantha teaming up at South by is so nice to have someone to chat with. We're often very exhausted. We're taking a lot of energy drinks. I'm like but I like love drinking. So I feel like South by, you can drink as much as you want and you'll never be drunk because you're running around so much.
And walking
And
too.
walking,
You don't
woo!
actually have to be driving really to
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you're an
Yeah.
artist, you get your gear, but if you're just hanging out
Yeah,
or
yeah,
networking,
have a good time. And
around.
but I will say, like what I always say is like you have your schedule being really intense, but leave room, wiggle room, like rank what you have to see based on importance and have backups and also understand what you don't need to see, like prioritize your rest. And because I do a lot of panels too, and that can be exhausting. But I think being flexible actually is like really the best. Be flexible, but also know who you really want to see. And also, if you can find a place with a great lineup from start to finish and just camp, that's what you want to do.
And what are your thoughts on unofficial showcases?
Love them. We've done a lot of unofficial showcases, and I feel like that's kind of the more true nature South by experience sometimes because they're like you want to be like in someone's yard, like having a weird time.
I
Like
went to a
that's
gas station once.
Yeah.
They like the whole backyard was basically
I love
a
it.
music venue.
I love the unofficial showcases because I think they're sometimes just way more fun and you can see a broader range of artists. And I don't know, they're just kind of like the heart of Austin, those unofficial showcases. Like,
Cool. Well, when this comes out, I think South by will be on its way again back into the schedule, so it's worth it. We'll have to see
Yeah.
what happens next year's. I want to also ask you a little bit about. I've made videos on this too, and I'm sure I've seen some stuff from more so your opinion content.
Okay.
You ever heard of something called the nostalgia cycle in music, or the
Yeah.
idea that things come back around? I wanted to talk a little bit about the Tumblr era, which
Oh,
I did live through for real.
Oh, yeah.
But it is, as of right now, experiencing a pretty big
Mm-mm.
resurgence, which is roughly a decade ago.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, when you see things like this happen,
Yeah.
do we believe that it's a powerful marketing tool to lean into for an artist? Do we think it's just a trend that flies
I
away?
I don't believe in following music trends because I think it'll come across as inauthentic. Like I see everyone doing country music now. This is not about Beyonce. Beyonce can do whatever she wants. Okay.
They have.
Beyonce can do whatever she wants.
Love you.
She is from Houston, Texas. She is my girl. Okay. But like I see a lot of people leaning country now. I see a lot of people like I I see people leaning into trends that don't feel as authentic and I want people to be authentic in their music because I think that's what sets trends. And so the like Tumblr revival, the recession pop revival,
Yeah.
which I love. I love recession pop. So
Mhm.
love this for me.
Also, can we give tell us what recession pop is? The
Recession pop is music that makes you want to spend your money at the club to generate economic plus. Like go out, have a good time. You're not poor. Like
just drink the night away.
just drink the night away. You might only have enough money to don't pay your rent. Pay for drinks at the club. And it makes me happy.
So that's a piece of it that the
Yeah.
revival that's fun, and obviously
Yeah.
Charlie XCX having lived it is helping the revival up.
Oh, yeah. Charlie XCX is not a Gen Z icon. She is a millennial icon. Like, let us not have this narrative. She has a song on Brat about thinking about having children and might have missing her chance. Like that is I'm sorry, Gen Z, you don't get that. But
Not yet.
not yet. But I do think people leaning into something is always like, I just want people to make the music they want to make without worrying about trends.
I love that, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
What do you think about the term indie, which also had it's not
Yes.
from 10 years ago, but it definitely was big, the indie pop world.
Yeah.
Think of like sort of like what am I thinking of back then? You know what I'm talking
I
about,
know,
where
yeah.
indie had this major
Indie
Tumblr
sleaze, indie
moment. Indie sleaze, Lana's early days. Do you think that that's an outdated term now?
Yes. Indie is an aesthetic, it's not a reality, I think, because most people saying like indie sleaze, indie pop, indie are not independent artists, they're on record labels. And I think it's confusing, but I do think it makes sense because like when you say indie pop, I know exactly what you mean as opposed to pop. But like, yeah, I think the term doesn't mean what it's supposed to
It
mean.
used to get tied
Yeah.
to DIY.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm kind of asking is like, is there any connotation left between those two words?
No, but I think it's a thing that makes me understand what it is, you know? Like, because pop and indie pop, there's such a huge difference. And even if like indie pop is like someone who's fully on a label and has a full team, I still know what the term means, you know?
I've almost feel like the indie
Yeah.
pop genre has been fully overtaken by
Oh
label
yeah.
signed artists.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is confusing, and that there's parts of social media, especially hashtags and things that take ownership of independent as a tie into DIY,
Yeah.
but labels will call
Yeah.
themselves, oh, we're indie.
Yeah.
It's just such a strange I think that line got extremely blurred
Yeah.
in the last 10 years. I also want to ask you about playlists.
Yeah.
I know that the new Nine has some fun playlists, and I wanted to ask just general advice for artists, especially with no sort of LA connections yet, or are not understanding Spotify's workflow.
Oh,
What advice for getting on a playlist?
I mean, it's the playlisting world is nuts because I have seen some people charging like thousands of dollars to be on their playlist. And I think that I'm that make money however you can, right? Especially as a music journalist, especially if you're a playlister, sure, make money. But I think some things are just crazy to ask for. I don't get payments for placements. I think that's wrong. I've done some TikTok sponsored things, but like I will not be paid to do a feature or paid to do a playlist placement because I think that's unethical. And I think it breaks the trust with an audience is when you're paid to do a feature, you become like one of those weird websites with a bunch of ads and like a bunch of pop-ups and it's gross and I don't like that. I do believe people should be paid for their work. It's just like kind of a confusing thing. And then I feel for these artists who DM me and say, "Hey, this person wants this much money to be on this playlist." And I'm like, okay, you have to ask them how long it's going to be on the playlist.
Yes.
How, like, and there's so many like fake inflated playlists on Spotify too that can get your songs taken
The
down.
botting is not under
It's
control yet.
insane on
No.
Spotify and it's dangerous. And I know how important playlisting is for these artists, but I feel like the only thing to do, you make your list of people, like 10 people that you love who create good playlists and you pitch it to them and see what happens. And then honestly, just your best doing the Spotify pitching the way it is, because there's so many scammers out there, I think, right now on Spotify, on TikTok, on social media. Like, there are so many people that are trying to like take money from these artists that are like using their paycheck from their day job. And that makes me so mad.
And do you find I guess because I fully agree with you on the
Yeah.
culture just feeling a little shady.
Yeah.
I guess there are still, and the artists I work with especially, I'm still finding them coming to me though saying, you know what, I want to play it. I want to pay to play, which is a
Yeah.
very LA
Yeah,
term.
totally.
I want to pay to play. I want to get involved. Would you say, regardless of our thoughts on it, could you see something meaningful happening success wise in these placements?
I don't know because I think a lot of people are also not active listening to some of these playlists. And I feel like if you're not active listening, it's just a song in the background, then what are you doing? But I think sometimes the pay to play is work as long as it's not so much money, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm talking if you're talking $1,000, that's a crazy spend to be on a playlist.
Maybe a couple hundred.
A couple hundred, sure. You know, it just depends on the metrics of the playlist.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have some feelings because like some people are really talented as playlist curators. I'm actually not a super talented playlist curator. It's like a side thing I do. But like because some people put in so much work and so much effort into those and I applaud them. But like the money thing kind of makes me feel a little shady sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not hear that. Speaking of shady things,
Yes.
besides playlisting and all the amazing takes you've shared so far, I just want to ask if you have one other like controversial music industry opinion, like what you would consider your more recent controversial music industry opinions.
Controversial music industry opinions. I don't know. I mean, I feel like the pay to play thing makes me mad. I feel like one of my things that I'm currently annoyed with is any band that thinks like living like the 70s rock star life is still a normal way to live their life. I think that a lot of, and maybe this is like an LA thing, but a lot of like people get mad when I say boy bands, but I don't know what to call these bands of like all boys, right? Like I don't know. They're
Come on, people.
it's a boy
boys in a
band.
band.
And they think that they're living a Jim Morrison life when it's 2024. And I think that is so cringy. Like it's 2024. We're taking care of ourselves. We're being healthy. We're having um good non-problematic relationships with fans. And the bands I know that are really successful at touring right now do that. They treat it like a business. They treat it like they're athletes and they have to rest up because I mean, like when you look at like Beyonce, right? You could not do that tour and be like doing lots of drugs every night and drinking a lot. There's no way you can pull that off. You would pass out. And so I think something I'm having lately is like these like bands of guys who think that, you know, oh, we got to take it back to the 70s. We do not. We do not. Oh, we got to push forward.
And you're talking too the lifestyle, as in like
lifestyle.
70s sound.
So you sound great. Look,
it's very much like these guys are trying to live the year
vintage
90s.
vibes, not vintage values, guys. That's all the little vintage girlies say online. But there's that. I don't like the pay to play for a lot of music bloggers which again, like, you know, I feel like music blogs are kind of going down a little bit because no one wants to read an article, which is fine. And then you have to transition to TikTok. But yeah, so definitely that. I'm trying to think of anything else controversial. I just want old men out of their jobs.
Yeah. Again, I talk to a lot of female musicians and those in the industry on this podcast, and the old men thing comes up so much.
Yeah.
And it's experiences I have had as well. And these walls that are being built that are just really feeling restrictive. And you know, it's something else I wanted to ask was, you know, if you had to put into words why record labels are kind of, I would say, really struggling, not the finances of them, just the relevance of record labels.
Yeah.
Why do you feel they are struggling right now?
I feel like a lot of them don't know what people want. And you know what I hate? I hate online any like huge artist complaining about TikTok and social media. It's so dumb. No one's like making you do TikToks. Like leave that all behind because there's a bunch of indie artists without like I used to work for a really huge artist and people would be like, "Oh, how did you get that many followers so fast?" It's like people know who they are. It's not that hard. I can't replicate it for you because people don't know you. Like it's really easy for someone really famous to immediately get 2 million followers on TikTok. And I think a lot of these labels aren't seeing TikTok like I do and like you probably do as a niche community building site. Like indie artists, I try to be like, "Hey, just get a couple friends." Like see it as making friends, not as like going viral, which I'm against going viral because I think it immediately makes people turn against you and with their songs especially. as soon as a song goes viral, I know the next day that someone's going to be hating on Dasha. Like we saw that with Dasha,
Yes. Seen her stuff.
who I interviewed in 2020, and then she immediately had a song that got really catchy, and people were like, it's my favorite comment. People said she paid people to do her dance on TikTok. Industry plant. And I'm like, oh, that's just marketing. Like,
I literally do not think people understand how
so
often labels are
bad,
banned for
but
those
sounds
places.
incredibly normal.
More normal than I can even express.
Yeah.
It's very normal now.
But as soon as any woman gets a viral song online, it's immediately trashed. And so like I try with like indie artists to be like, you are trying to find, and these labels are pushing these smaller artists on their labels, and they're like, what why aren't our numbers going up? It's what's going on with this? Why aren't you? And they're like feeling like, well, I like the content I'm putting out. I like the songs I'm putting out. Why do I have to change that? Like I feel like something that I'm sorry if I'm like ranting, but
No,
like
I'm trying to pull that out.
there's a style of artist TikTok right now that I'm over, and it is the zoom in, zoom out, lots of stuff happening. You know what I mean? Like kind of videos. I feel like that's on the decline, and people want more like authentic, like they want to get to know you, and I feel like I'm hoping that's on the up, you know?
What are your thoughts? Because every artist who hears that, including some that I've chatted with on the podcast,
Yeah.
even myself, turning a camera on and talking to it, it's not natural. It's not easy.
Not natural.
What are your thoughts knowing that some of these more what feel like highly produced
Yeah.
Gen Z centric stuff, if it's on its way out, how can an artist break in to an authentic camera conversation?
I mean, to be fair, yeah, it's always weird. I find a lot of things online cringe though. So like I don't judge people who do cringy things online because I know what they're trying to do. But I always would favor an artist that feels like my friend, that feels like I'm just like having like a vlog, like not a vlog, but like a FaceTime from an artist. I think it's cuter. And I just think it's more relatable than like all of the like super edited, super advanced, like, and I used to push that more. And now I feel like people are sensing the inauthenticity in it. And sometimes it just doesn't fit the vibe. Like if you're a singer songwriter and you're doing some like crazy camera work, I'm like, just play the song. Like just play it on an acoustic guitar, or just tell me about your day.
Yeah. So I always say this
Yeah.
too. I actually have this like talk to the mirror mentality, or when I
Yeah.
was getting started with it, I would actually say stories to myself in the mirror
Yeah.
to get the nervous, like forced pieces out. And by the time, almost like I rehearsed it, but in a weird way, that made it easier. So
Yeah.
if for some reason you keep turning the camera on and you're like, it's not feeling authentic, I'm always like, go to the mirror, tell the story a few times, figure out how you want to say it. And then when you turn the camera on again, it will feel like FaceTime. You will feel like you know what you're saying.
And we know this very well, but there is nothing more embarrassing than starting a TikTok account. It is the most embarrassing thing in the world. I hated posting every day. I also like looked crazy. I used too many filters. Like not even the beauty
No.
filters,
I looked back
but
like 2 years ago.
but
I'm
like the just the
"Girl,
like
what am I
lighting
doing?"
filters. I was like, "Oh yeah, this light looks great." And I looked crazy. But like it's trial and error.
Yeah.
It's all social media is trial and error, and it's just posting things until you figure out what you like posting about. And sometimes I'm always like don't be scared to flop. Like everyone flops. It doesn't matter.
Flop era is
Flop era.
an era you embrace for a lot of your life. And you'll learn this. It's not always about failing. It's about I'm just gonna have a little bit of fun. And sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and I genuinely believe if you're not having fun making your content, then it's gonna do poorly. Like if I have like gun to your head, make a TikTok, like you're gonna look like you're not having a good time. And like I've even like coached artists, like, look like you're having fun. Like, why aren't you having fun? And then they look miserable and we have to do something else. Like,
Same.
yeah.
It's again, find what natural means to you. And sometimes it does mean a little rehearsing, a little
Yeah.
scripting. I've seen my recent hot take is people are getting angry with the scripting. I'm not always opposed to scripting. It's that if you're not a trained actor, this is where you're having trouble, is you're looking at like, it looks like I'm reading off a script. Well, you're not a trained actor. It might just mean that that's not going to work for you. And it's more so figuring out in advance what you want to say. And just FaceTime is such a great description.
Yeah.
Like you're chatting with someone you know.
Yeah.
And it's feeling that casual. Well, Emily, this has been so much fun. I've been dying to get us having a conversation, and we even filmed it for everyone. What are some venues or showcases on the rise right now in LA that you might say keep an eye on?
Oh, I actually don't know showcases in LA to keep an eye on. Sam by Sam Productions does a great job. I haven't seen what they've posted yet, but they've always put on a really good show. I have too much anxiety to throw events anymore, but
It's a lot of work.
it's so much work. It's not for me. That I always love school night. It's always fun, and yeah, but I definitely say Sam by Sam Productions have put on some incredible events for women, and I would definitely keep an eye on them.
Amazing. And I kept joking before. And the Mint.
And the Mint,
Keep
of
an eye on
course.
what the Mint's up to. Thank you so much for being on the Fandom
Yeah.
podcast. I had a blast.
Yeah, this was so fun.
Yay!